This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, and faith-focused feature stories with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Good afternoon. Welcome aboard. The U.S. military today began enforcing a naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. This decision follows unsuccessful peace talks with Iran in Pakistan over the weekend.
We're not going to let Iran make money on selling oil to people that they like and not people that they don't like or whatever it is. It's going to be all or none, and that's the way it is.
President Trump says the U.S. will employ minesweepers to remove explosive devices laid by Iran in that strait. Retired Navy SEAL Mike Sorelli.
It's a combination of both subsurface and surface detection. And then once detected, you've got to remove or destroy the mine in place. And so that is a lengthy operation, guys. Think about trying to find a needle in a haystack. That is a large area to cover. It will take some time.
The U.S. Navy's under orders now to locate and stop any and all ships entering or leaving the Strait of Hormuz. That waterway is where 20% of the world's oil supply passes through every day. Oil prices today soared above $100 a barrel again, and AAA says the national average for regular unleaded gasoline is now $4.12 a gallon. California Congressman Eric Swalwell has suspended his campaign for governor. He's accused of sexually assaulting a former staffer. Several other women have accused the congressman and married father of three. Swalwell denies the allegation.
These allegations are flat false. They're absolutely false. They did not happen.
The district attorney's offices in New York and California are investigating the claims. Meantime, the U.S. House could vote this week on a motion to expel Swalwell from Congress.
It is unacceptable for him to just index his campaign for governor in California, but still sit in the House of Representatives. Meanwhile, he was allegedly harassing his own staff. This is about accountability for the American people.
Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna plans to introduce the resolution to expel Congressman Swalwell. A manhunt continues in New Jersey after a deadly shooting at a Chick-fil-A that left one person dead and 6 others hurt. An employee of that eatery tells the New York Post a group of masked men barged into the Chick-fil-A in Union Township on Saturday night and fired multiple shots after forcing their way behind the counter. Officials say the shooting does not appear to be a random act. For the second year in a row, Rory McIlroy is your Masters golf champion. Jim Nantz had the call on CBS.
Rory is a rare repeat winner at Augusta.
The Irishman posting a 12-under par to beat American Scotty Scheffler by 1 stroke on Sunday.
I can't believe I waited 17 years to get one green jacket, and I get 2 in a row. It's just sort of the way, I don't know. I think all of my perseverance at this golf tournament over the years has really started to pay off.
The victory makes McIlroy just the 4th person in PGA history to win the Masters in back-to-back years. He joins the likes of golfing greats Jack Nicklaus, Nick Faldo, and Tiger Woods. A new study by the University of Miami shows men who never marry have a 70% greater risk of developing cancer than men who do tie the knot. For women, that gap is even more pronounced. Women who never marry have an 85% greater risk of developing cancer. Researchers studied 4 million Americans in a dozen states to come up with those conclusions. Gen Zers are still getting a lot of financial help from mom and dad. Mark Mayfield files this report.
The 2026 Wells Fargo Money Study says 64% of parents with Gen Z children say their kids still rely on them financially, whether for money, housing, or other support. Over half of those parents say that support is hurting their own finances. A 2021 study from the University of Buffalo and the New School found that the amount of black adults who receive parental assistance is much lower than that of white adults. I'm Mark Mayfield.
A growing percentage of American workers say artificial intelligence has taken over parts of their job. The survey from Epic AI and Ipsos found 2 in 10 full-time employees admit AI is now doing things they used to do themselves. Still to come on the Noon Report for a Monday, the 2026 Family Structure Index. Catholic nuns sue New York, and should the government pay for pothole repairs?
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. We're looking at a warm but occasionally wet week ahead. I'll have forecast details coming up. We'll see you in 10 minutes.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you then. In the meantime, let's check the stories making news where you live. Across New York and Pennsylvania, New York motorists may soon see relief from costly pothole repairs if a new proposal in the state Senate becomes law. Democrat Jeremy Cooney is pushing for legislation that would expand when the state is responsible for vehicle damage caused by potholes. Under current law, drivers can only seek compensation between May 1st and November 15th. Cooney's bill would allow for reimbursement all year long. These motorists tell Wham! News they like the sound of that.
If you like the time for potholes, or any time in the winter, you've got them growing with ice. So I think that's great.
You know, we spend a lot of money on our cars, so we shouldn't have the lack of maintenance on the roads, destroying them.
To qualify for reimbursement, the pothole must have been reported to the state in advance of the accident, and the accident must have happened on a state road. If approved, the law would require the state of New York to cover up to $5,000 in vehicle damage caused by potholes. An investigation is underway in Lafayette, New York, after an incident Sunday that left 2 people dead. Police responding to an erratic female driver who hit and killed a woman with her vehicle and then struck 2 others who were trying to help. The driver refused to stop and wound up being shot dead by a state trooper. April is National Distracted Driving Awareness Month, and New York State Police are celebrating by stepping up enforcement efforts. They're cracking down on motorists who don't pay attention while behind the wheel.
Just looking at your phone for a second, keeping your eyes off the road just for that few seconds can be devastating.
State Trooper Jennifer Geron says distracted driving killed over 80 people last year alone in New York and was responsible for more than 36,000 crashes.
The overall message is simple: to slow down, watch your speed, stay off the phone, and make sure that you're moving over for emergency vehicles.
Speeding is the number one cause of all fatal accidents on the road. Penalties for distracted driving range from $50 to $450. Repeat offenders could have their licenses revoked for up to a year. A new poll ranks Pennsylvania 34th in the nation when it comes to family stability. New York is even worse, coming in 44th this year. The latest data from the Family Structure Index shows about 53% of Pennsylvania adults are married. In New York, the marriage rate is just 49%. Jason McGuire is executive director of New York Families.
So you can't be neutral on the family. If you want to have a strong state and a strong nation, you want to have strong families. And if public policy is not upholding the family and elevating the importance of the family, well, then really you're sliding backwards and you're undermining it.
Yeah.
So every public policy decision needs to be viewed through the lens of, does this help or hinder the family in the Empire State and across the country?
Michael Gear is with the Pennsylvania Family Institute.
We need to be teaching something called the success sequence, which is that you should try to graduate from college and then get a job and then get married before having children. If you follow that sequence, those 3 steps in that order, 97% of them will never be in poverty. That's an astounding statistic that we need to be teaching in our schools and our churches, and the government leaders need to understand that as well.
4 in 10 teens today, about 40% in both New York and Pennsylvania, are being raised by a single parent. Tick season's in full bloom, don't you know? Experts say tick encounters are already up 70% compared to last year. Tick bites can cause serious health issues, including Lyme disease. The rates of respiratory illness are declining across Pennsylvania. Both the flu and RSV are decreasing rapidly, while COVID is decreasing slightly, we're told. Since last September, there have been nearly 500 flu-related deaths and just over 500 COVID-related deaths in Pennsylvania. It's wildfire season in Pennsylvania, and as those temperatures soar this week, the threat will only get worse. Family Life's Mark Webster tells us about a wildfire that kept crews busy all weekend long in the south central part of the state.
Yeah, a blaze in the Michaud State Forest was first spotted Saturday afternoon, then rekindled early Sunday as dry conditions and shifting winds made containing the flames difficult. Crews spent Sunday using a combination of backburns, ground teams, and air support, including helicopter water drops, to try to contain the fire. Steep terrain made the ground attack all the more challenging. While the bulk of the blaze is contained, firefighters are expected to be on scene into this week to make sure it stays that way. The cause of this fire has yet to be determined. Michaud was the scene of a large wildfire last year. Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you, Mark. A Western New York woman's been charged with stealing from senior living residents. That story new at noon from Family Life's Dee Haley.
A Cattaraugus County woman is facing felony charges after state police say she stole from vulnerable senior residents while managing their finances. Officials reported yesterday approximately 30 residents were identified as being affected by fraudulent activity. Allegheny resident Brenda Buck is accused of stealing more than $46,000 from residents at a senior living facility in Steuben County over the course of a year. The investigation reportedly began on March 26th after troopers received a report of suspected fraud. Buck was an employee at the senior living facility and responsible for managing resident financial accounts. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
Catholic nuns who spent more than a century caring for the dying poor are now in a legal battle with New York over a law that they say violates their religious convictions. The law, signed by Governor Hochul, requires Catholic convalescent homes and nursing care facilities accommodate the LGBTQ lifestyle. Those who do not face fines and possibly even prison time. The Dominican Sisters of Hawthorne out of Hawthorne, New York, filed suit last week against the state. An election integrity watchdog group warns New York's voter registration system lacks safeguards to protect the validity of the vote. The nonpartisan Restoring Integrity and Trust in Elections, or RIGHT for short, accuses the state's Board of Elections of refusing to correct its mistakes ahead of the November midterms. Ali Triola is a spokesperson for the Republican National Committee.
We are committed at the RNC to stopping any abuse of our elections. We know that voters deserve free, fair, and secure elections.
Central New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney is demanding the Board of Elections hand over data to identify shortcomings in the state's voter registration system. The state has been given until next month to comply or face legal action. Big shakeup in New York politics. Buffalo Democrat Crystal Peoples-Stokes is stepping down as Assembly Majority Leader. Her replacement candidate is Leah Halton Pope, the Majority Leader on the Buffalo Common Council.
It's surreal spending so much time with Majority Leader Peoples-Stokes and to have the opportunity to fill her seat. It's an honor. You can't really fill shoes for somebody else. All I can do is walk in the footsteps that she's left for me, and then hopefully, to make sure I leave the right footprints for the next person.
Halton Pope is the former chief of staff for Peoples-Stokes, who's stepping down for health and personal reasons. She served in the state assembly for more than 20 years, the last 8 as Majority Leader. Budget cuts are coming to a central Pennsylvania college with dozens of jobs and academic programs on on the chopping block. Harrisburg Area Community College plans to eliminate 130 positions as it works to close a $10 million budget gap. Officials call the move difficult but necessary to stabilize finances moving forward. A familiar Pennsylvania college town is getting some national notoriety. Here's Family Life's Brian Query.
State College, home to Penn State University, has been named the best college town in America by readers of USA Today. The ranking highlights the borough's mix of small-town charm and big campus energy, with a vibrant scene of restaurants, coffee shops, and student life. With more than 46,000 students from across the country and around the world, Penn State plays a major role in the town's appeal. Supporters point to strong job prospects after graduation and a welcoming atmosphere as key factors. While some online reactions were mixed, many locals embraced the honor, proudly saying, "We are the best." Brian Query, Family Life News.
Yes, thank you, Brian. A Williamsville, New York couple celebrating a remarkable milestone this month. George and Corrine Klein are both turning 100. And get this, they're just one day apart in age. What's more, come September, the Kleins will celebrate their 80th wedding anniversary. They tell WGRZ what the key to 8 decades of marital bliss is. Exactly. Take a listen.
Yes, dear. Yes, dear. Yes, dear.
And mine is, I let him say me, yes, dear, yes, dear.
Whatever works, right? George and Corrine Klein of Williamsville, New York. Together, they've raised 4 sons. They've got 4 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren. What a legacy of love there in Williamsville. We've got sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Rory is the story again. Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, Rory McIlroy became just the 4th player ever to win back-to-back Masters championships after finishing atop the leaderboard yesterday at 12 under par. He edged Scotty Scheffler by 1 shot, and 4 other golfers tied for 3rd, 2 shots back. To the NBA, the Knicks were already locked into the number 3 seed, so they rested Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, Josh Hart, and OG Anunoby. Mikal Bridges played for 23 seconds to extend his consecutive games played, and then he sat 2. Predictably, New York lost to Charlotte 110-96. 76ers got 21 points from Tyrese Maxey. They beat the Bucks 126-106. They are the 7 seed entering postseason play. On the ice, the Caps are still alive following a 3-0 win over the Penguins. The Islanders were eliminated from the playoffs. They lost to Montreal 4-1. Elsewhere, the Bruins, Devils, Canucks, and Flames also skated to victories. On to baseball, both the Yankees and Mets were swept. The Yanks fell to the Rays 5-4. The Mets dropped a 1-0 decision to the A's. Arizona edged the Phillies 4-3, and the Cubs outlasted the Buccos 7-6. On to NASCAR, Ty Gibbs won in overtime over Ryan Blaney to take the checkered flag at Bristol. Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick, and Chase Briscoe rounded out the top 5. That is a look at sports.
Thank you, Randy. Still to come on the Noon Report. Swalwell suspends campaign, blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, and warmer weather on the way. Kev's got that work week forecast right after this.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center on John Stone Street. The prophet Isaiah warned, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil." A modern example, as Dr. Al Mohler recently described on his Briefing podcast, is the moral incoherence of both believing that life is sacred and valuable while also rejecting any consequences for those who take it. Recently, the state of Georgia charged a woman with the murder of her 22 to 24-week-old baby who died within an hour of birth after her mother took abortion pills at home to terminate the pregnancy. This is the first murder charge in the state related to its 6-week abortion ban. The Washington Post article that covered the story concluded by citing a 2022 Economist YouGov poll. According to the poll, 19% of respondents thought that a woman who has an abortion that violates state laws should be charged with murder. while 54% thinks she should not be charged, 26% unsure. And a more recent 2025 Pew Research report described the moral confusion about life in even starker terms. Entitled, What Do Americans Consider Immoral?, the study asked about different behaviors ranging from eating meat to abortion. According to their data, 47% of Americans say having an abortion is morally wrong, while about half say an abortion is either not a moral issue or is even morally acceptable. An interesting parallel now exists between the abortion issue and the other great moral evil in American history, slavery. Americans made many compromises in the decades leading up to the Civil War and attempts to address slavery, most notably the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. That law sanctioned what was known as popular sovereignty, the idea that federal territories should decide by a simple majority whether or not they wanted slavery. That law provided the seeds for expanding slavery throughout America, including in territories where it had previously been forbidden. Abraham Lincoln responded instead by appealing to the moral standard that's found in the Declaration of Independence. Given the principle of human equality articulated there and in the natural law, even majorities must obey and teach that slavery is wrong. According to Lincoln, Stephen A. Douglas, who had authored the Kansas-Nebraska Act, was guilty of blowing out the moral lights all around us. Well, in the 2022 Dobbs Supreme Court decision, the court overturned Roe on a legal technicality, not on the basis of a created moral order that establishes the sacredness of every human life. And because the court then returned the question of legality to the states, the issue of abortion is now handled very much like popular sovereignty. The Dobbs decision was certainly a major victory for the pro-life movement, but because the court failed to declare abortion morally wrong, some states have now even enshrined it as a basic human right. So where does that leave us here in 2026? Well, like with slavery and Jim Crow laws, the United States is now fundamentally divided, state by state, on a question of essential moral status and incredible moral gravity. Now, Christians, of course, believe that God is the ultimate standard for all morality, above all tradition and values, laws, norms, or majority opinions. By his objective moral standard, which is revealed to us in both natural law and biblical revelation, all actions and policies can and should be measured. That requires pushing back against the moral relativism that's captivated hearts and minds and still pervades contemporary culture. It also involves appealing to and upholding God's clear moral standards amid vast moral confusion. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
All right, John, thank you kindly. Outside we go next, Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life forecast for this afternoon. Variably cloudy, warm, and breezy. A few scattered showers and high temperatures mid-60s to the mid-70s. A shower or two around this evening, otherwise just some clouds tonight. Low temps 50s. For tomorrow and Wednesday, warm, a little humid, a little breezy. Variable cloudiness, sunny breaks, a few scattered showers, and the risk of a thunderstorm. The high temperature both days in the 70s to near 80 degrees.
All right, shorts and T-shirt weather for sure. Thank you, Kevin. This is the Noon Report. I'm your host, Bob Price. Lots going on Monday, the 13th of April. A naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is now in effect in the Middle East. The U.S. military stopping all maritime traffic into and out of that strategic waterway. Fox's Lucas Tomlinson.
There's over 300 tankers stuck in the Persian Gulf right now trying to get out, and there's no other way out of the Persian Gulf into the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most strategic waterways.
NBC News business analyst Christine Roman says this blockade could send already sky-high gas prices even higher.
The Strait of Hormuz, this is a super highway of really important commodities for the global economy. We're just not seeing the ships go through. And now you've got this blockade. Big concerns. That means oil won't be flowing anytime soon.
The naval blockade comes after peace talks with Iran failed in Pakistan over the weekend. Vice President J.D. Vance.
We've made very clear what our red lines are. They have chosen not to accept our terms.
Vance says the two sides could not see eye to eye when it comes to nuclear disarmament.
The simple fact is that we need to see an affirmative commitment that they will not seek a nuclear weapon, and they will not seek the tools that would enable them to quickly achieve a nuclear weapon.
President Trump says the U.S. military will begin destroying mines that were laid in the Strait of Hormuz by the Iranian regime. He adds that other countries will be taking part in enforcing this naval blockade, which took effect at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time this morning. The leading candidate for governor of California has dropped out of the race. Correspondent Heather Bosch.
Democratic California Congressman Eric Swalwell has suspended his campaign for governor amid claims by a former staffer that he sexually assaulted her twice. Swalwell denies the claims.
These allegations of sexual assault are flat false. They are absolutely false.
Republican and Democratic lawmakers could vote as early as this week on whether to expel Swalwell from Congress.
Heather Bosch on Capitol Hill. A 9-year-old boy has been rescued after living locked in his father's van in eastern France since 2024. 2 years locked in a van. The child's been hospitalized. The father is in prison today. Police were alerted last week by a neighbor to the sounds of a child coming from that van in a French village bordering Switzerland and Germany. You're tuned in to the Noon Report, a Monday edition on Family Life.
This is a special feature from the Family Life News team on repercussions of the landmark U.S. Supreme Court case, Childs versus Salazar. Can Christian counselors offer gay conversion therapy? The High Court resoundingly said yes. With me, Focus on the Family, culture and policy analyst, Jeff Johnston. Jeff, your story is powerful. You used to struggle with a gay lifestyle, but you healed, you married, and you have 3 grown kids. Tell me what happened.
I grew up in a Christian home and struggled with these deep issues. And in my 20s, I finally heard somebody talk about leaving homosexuality. So I went to see a counselor, and we didn't call it gay conversion therapy. I was young. I thought, okay, maybe 6 weeks, and then I'm going to change from gay to straight. And I soon realized that transformation and healing takes longer than that. But my counselor and I just engaged in regular talk therapy. We talked about my past, some sexual experiences I'd had as a young boy, relationships with my father. And over time, my goal actually shifted. Originally, it was to not have same-sex attractions anymore, but my goal shifted towards becoming more healthy and more whole, getting to know God better and becoming more like Jesus. That's typically what we're talking about when we're talking about therapy for unwanted homosexuality. It's just normal talk therapy.
How did you make the flip mentally from that lifestyle? I love what you said. It wasn't going to happen in 6 weeks. It's so true. It's an altering of so many belief systems, and that's not fast.
No, it's not. One of the key issues for me right off the bat was the whole question of identity. In our culture, when somebody has same-sex attractions or if they have sexual identity confusion, we almost immediately label them gay or trans or non-binary or queer, and people take on board that label. And one of the things I learned early on was that my same-sex attractions were not my identity. They didn't define me. And I also realized that one of the things I needed to do was just grow up as a man and join the world of men. As a kind of a quiet, smaller, sensitive kid, I didn't like a lot of sports, and I had a hard time connecting with guys. So as an adult, one of the things that brought me real healing was men in the church who came alongside me and connected with me and loved me and confronted me when they had to. But just building healthy relationships with these men was a huge part of my healing.
I'm going to shift gears just a little bit and talk about the Kaylee Childs case. She's a Christian counselor and just won at the U.S. Supreme Court last month, that ruling 8-1, which is incredible considering the makeup, composition of the Supreme Court. They ruled that Christian counselors do have the right to offer biblically based, truth-affirming counseling to minors looking for a way out of the gay lifestyle. What did that ruling mean to you personally?
As you said, it's a huge ruling. Even the liberal justice justices, well, two of them anyway, recognize that these kinds of laws are a violation of free speech. You know, I first started to watch states clamp down on help for minors with unwanted homosexuality or transgenderism back in 2012. California was the first state to pass a law banning talk therapy for unwanted homosexuality. And then in Colorado here, we passed a similar law in 2019. I actually testified against that law. I told some of my story, and I said, you are shutting down freedom of speech, and you're shutting down the opportunity for people who are like I was, believers who struggle with same-sex attractions, and we know God's design for sexuality and relationships and marriage, and we need some help living according to our beliefs, and you are trying to block that. That's what I told the legislature, but they voted for this law anyway, and so it's been in place for the last 7 years, and Kaylee Childs is certainly a brave counselor to challenge that law. Ethical counselors aren't trying to force people to change. They don't use shame. They don't harass their clients. What they do is they work with their clients to help their clients reach their goals. And the law took that away from young people struggling with these issues. So say a 16-year-old boy, like I was, struggling with homosexuality and gay pornography. A counselor in our state could not help him deal with those issues and stop looking at porn because of this law. And so it was clearly one-sided. You could only push people towards homosexuality and transgenderism. And we want to provide hope and healing for people. And that's all counselors want to do as well. My hope is that this ruling frees people up to go get the help that they need when they're struggling with these issues. So I just want to let people know that there's hope out there. Initially, I wanted to be free from homosexuality, but along the way I said, I am going to pursue my faith even if these desires never go away. And over time, they decreased and they lost their hold on me. And so I found freedom, and I know that freedom is available for other people as well.
Powerful testimony there from Jeff Johnston at Focus on the Family. Speaking with our own Sarah Harnish, you can hear Sarah's entire conversation at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. The next several days will be on the warm side across our region, but it'll occasionally be wet. The air mass moving in is fairly moist and unstable. There'll be frequent episodes of dry weather, but certainly not a bad idea to have that umbrella handy. For this afternoon, variably cloudy, warm, and breezy. A few scattered showers and high temperatures, mid-60s to the mid-70s. A shower or two around this evening, otherwise just some clouds tonight. Low temps 50s. For tomorrow and Wednesday, warm, a little humid, a little breezy. Variable cloudiness, sunny breaks, a few scattered showers, and the risk of a thunderstorm. The high temperature both days in the 70s to near 80 degrees.
Okie doke, Kevin Williams, thank you kindly. Finally at noon, wordsmiths of the world unite. Today is your day. Correspondent Bree Tennis.
It's National Scrabble Day, celebrating the birthday of the inventor, Alfred Mosher Butts. He created the game back in 1931, although he called it Criss Crossword. The Milton Bradley Company has owned the game since 1972. It said you'll find a Scrabble game in 1/3 of every house in the U.S. And if you're not good at it, it's one more thing you can blame on your parents. Spelling is genetic. I'm Bree Tennis.
All right, Bree, thank you very much. Fortunately for me, I don't have to spell it right. I just have to say it right. It's all about phonetics, folks, in radio. And that's our world, the world we live in. Monday, April 13th. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.